So it's understandable that we all tend to think we live in really unique times, whether uniquely awesome or uniquely terrible, or in some ways maybe both. And as violent as our culture is today, there is a much deeper story to be told about violence in entertainment. One that stretches back more than 100 years. Batman saying this is the weapon of the enemy, we do not need it, we will not use it, breaking the gun in half with his bare hands, or his gloved hands. Tell us a little bit about why this matters. What do we have to learn from him and his antipathy for guns in its sort of bigger historical context?
Batman not using guns is a really interesting part of his character for me, because it's the first step in taking him from what he originally was, which was basically just a big ripoff of the Shadow, the pulp and radio character, and sort of crafting him into this unique character unto himself. And it happens very early on. Batman's introduced in 1939, and by the end of 1940, there's a story where he tells Robin, we don't use guns of any kind. But in that intervening 2 years, he carries a gun in his first appearance. There's a very famous panel of him in one of the very early stories, opening up a coffin with a vampire in it and shooting him with a 45. He kicks a dude into a pit of acid in his first appearance. He's very violent. But as the story goes on, and you see the sort of evolution of the backstory, which comes around 6 months after his creation in Detective Comics 33. That's when you first get Batman's origin story. You see that the very famous scene that we've all seen in the movies of his parents getting killed in the alley and by a guy with a gun. And that becomes a very important touchstone for Batman. The gun, psychologically speaking, from the character standpoint, becomes a focal point of what crime is and what criminals are. And even though he uses the tactics of the criminals, he very famously has the line, "Criminals are a superstitious, cowardly lot," and he dresses up like essentially a demon to go out at night and fight bad guys. Even though he uses those fear tactics and operates at night like criminals do, that's the one place where he draws the line. That's his one rejection of crime. And you see that evolve over the next 70 years and become a very important part of who Batman is and what he does. And obviously, from a creative standpoint, that means that he doesn't kill his villains. So you can have the Joker and Catwoman and the Penguin come back, which was another very early concern. Joker and Penguin were introduced very early on in 1940 as well.